Welcome back to the 19th episode of the Dear Young Men podcast. The theme of today's show is learning to pick yourself up after you fail, because you will fail much more often than you will succeed on Dear Young Men. I wanted to break down this episode slightly differently than how I have in the past to try something new. So I have 4 chapters talking all about failure, basically. And we're going to start with chapter 1. Failure is not what you think it is. We all fail. We constantly fail. In fact, I could tell you that I just recently failed. This is a podcast that comes out every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm filming this podcast a day late, a day and 13 hours late. It is currently 8:52 p.m. on Wednesday, the day after this podcast was due. There are a lot of reasons I wasn't able to get this done. The biggest reason, this isn't an excuse, this is just my explanation, is that we had a holiday called Labor Day in America, and you just get the Monday off. And so my basement flooded over the last couple of weeks ago. It's been almost a month now since it had flooded, and I was just finishing up all of that stuff. I've actually done doing everything in the basement, and it's ready. It's done now. So on Monday, I was doing all that stuff and finishing everything up, and then I went to bed not thinking anything of it, and then I woke up on Tuesday, and I got down to my computer, and I was like, oh man, I got to film a podcast tonight because, it's Monday and whatnot. And no, it was Tuesday. And so I was late. And for the first time ever, I missed a show. I'd done it 18 episodes in a row, and I missed it. And I'm bummed about that. I was actually pretty devastated that I did that. And then I planned on filming it last night, but then I was like, I still have a lot of other things I need to just finish up in the house. I'll just film it the next night because I know for a fact I'll be done and ready to basically move on and be done with the basement, so that way I can just focus back on the things I want to focus on. But it's interesting how life sort of just gets in the way, and you'll fail. Even sometimes you fail because you choose to fail. I failed just kind of on accident. I just forgot. I literally just forgot, just a complete oversight on my side, and I failed. And it's disappointing, but it's okay. We're destined to fail. Your whole life, you will fail. You will fail much more often than you ever succeed. And that's the thing sort of with life that's so odd, is that you will fail. So the amount of failure that you will experience in your life will greatly exceed the amount of successes and moments of triumph that you will ever have. When I was a golfer, I golfed for 13, 14 years really competitively, and I really only hit my peak for about a year or two, and that was it. But it was like 14 or 15 years of just 13 years of just not being good enough, having everybody be better than me, and then eventually you find the success. Like we're sort of designed to fail, like all the time. It's crazy important that we are constantly failing, because failure is how you learn and it's how you grow. Failure is uniquely important, and if you never fail, you can never improve. So if you think about anything in your life, something very basic that I deal with on a daily basis is seeing my kids. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old, and my 10-month-old is learning to walk. And so she's constantly not walking. Everything she does is a failure, basically. She tries to stand up, and then she does stand up now. And then she tries to take a step and can't quite take a step yet. But if she uses a chair, she can take a step. And she's constantly failing. And that's the thing, like with humans, is we're sort of designed from birth. As I get older, and as my kids get older, you sort of realize that we are designed to fail, actually. That's how we learn. I think that's how humans are so adaptable, because we almost need failure in a way. But the culture has sort of told us that failure is a bad thing, or that there is no failure. Like being fat is 100% always okay. And it's not. Like, it's just, you'll die younger if you're fat. You can't experience life the same way as if you were thin, because I've been overweight and I've been really heavy, and my life was objectively worse back then. And so like there are those types of things where we say that failure doesn't exist, but failure does exist. We don't want those things to happen. You want to try to mitigate the failures, but failures, when they do happen, they're good. They're actually a good thing, and you need to learn from them. Because if not, you can never grow and you can never become greater than the person that you currently are. And so we have to understand that at the end of the day, we're all fallen creatures, and we're all designed and destined to fail and to sin. But you need to become the guy that everybody looks at and says, that man does not quit. There is nothing that can knock him down where he will not stand up again. And that's the type of person that I am trying to live into as an example for my kids. I want to be the person that when I fail or when something bad happens to me, like my basement floods, I say, that sucks. How am I going to move on? Yes, this is a crappy thing. I wish this didn't happen to me. I wish this didn't happen to anybody, but it happened to me. How am I going to address the situation and move on? That's the type of person you want to become, the type of person that no matter how much crap life throws at you, you know people like this. You know people that life has just thrown. I mean, my life, I have been blessed. Like I have not experienced that much failure. Thankfully, I don't want to experience as many hardships that come upon you. Sometimes they're good, but it sucks. Like having my basement flood was financially really stressful, and it was just a stressful thing. Is it the worst thing ever? Are there worse things in life? Certainly. And so I'm not trying to like compare that to anything else because I know how little it is, but it's in terms of my life, it was a big deal that I had to deal with recently. And you just have to become that person that no matter what life throws at you, you just take it with a smile and you say, this sucks, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to become a better person because of this, because I know that I can handle it. And that's hard. It's hard to do, but it's something that you have to do, because if not, then you'll never grow into the person that you were made to be. All right, and now chapter 2, learning to understand what failure and hardship actually is. Failure is not something to ever whine about, complain about, or lose yourself over. Failure is an opportunity to grow closer to God and to grow closer to the person that you were made to be. Whenever you fail, you fail. That's the thing, like with life, is you fail so much. And in those moments of failure, when you make a mistake, when you mess up, when you do the thing wrong, let's say a big fight that I fight on this channel and on this podcast is young men's addiction to porn. I don't know if I can say that or not. I think I can't on YouTube. I'm going to call it corn. You know what it is. It's that stuff. And so that is something that people constantly are failing because they're constantly watching it. They know they shouldn't. They don't want to watch it, but they are just pulled towards it because that sin is overwhelming in a way for them. And what they have to understand is that each one of those failures is bringing them closer to the last failure. And you have to be able to train your will in a way. To me, that I think that there is such thing as a corn addiction. Sorry, I know I have to say that. It's stupid, but I have to. I think that there is such thing as that. I do believe that exists to a point. But at the same time, too, you can stop. You can choose to stop. And every time you fail, you have to just, why did you fail? What was the reason that you failed this time? And you have to use that as an opportunity to grow closer to the person that you were made to be, because that's basically the only chance you have. You have to learn from those failures, because you're going to learn more from failures than you will from successes. If you're somebody that is struggling with that addiction and with that problem, then if you go 4 days without engaging with it or without watching it or whatever, you're not going to look at that and go, okay, so why over the last 4 days have I done it? You're just going to have not done it and not really think much about it. But if you do it, and you do it constantly, and every time you fail, you go, okay, this is why I failed. Okay, I need to cut that thing out. Okay, this is why I failed. This is what tempted me. I opened up Instagram and saw this girl, whatever, she was doing this thing. So I'm going to delete Instagram. I'm going to delete my profile. I'm going to delete that. Okay, but I still checked it on the web app, or I checked it on Safari. Okay, so I'm going to have to limit that in a way, or I'll put my phone away every single day when I get home, or I'll put my computer away. I won't access the internet. I'll commit to not accessing the internet for a certain amount of time, whatever it is. You just have to figure out, because those failures, that's your successes will be built on a pyramid of failures. When you reach a tippy top, you look back and be like, this was not like one success after another. It was like one failure after another with little successes here and there that kept me going, but pretty much I was just always messing up. And understanding that the middle and post-failure is brutal. And it's some of the hardest periods of your life will be in the midst of failure. I remember vividly that we talked about golf. Golf is a thing that I've failed a lot at in my life. And man, I've had such a blessed life, and I know that, but this is just a personal experience to me. I've had a lot of other failures, but this is just an easy one for me to talk about. When I was a junior in high school, I had been playing really bad golf, and I'd been playing really hard and I practiced a lot and I was really giving it my all, and I just wasn't. I was seeing no results. And I told my team that I was going to quit. I said, I think I'm done. It's just becoming too much. It's overwhelming. I'm working so hard. I'm not seeing a single result. Everybody on this team is playing better than me, and I practice more than almost anybody on this team, and I'm grinding harder than anybody. I've been grinding for years, and I never see any successes anywhere. And then I said that. I said, I'm done. I think I want to quit. Maybe I'll play a few more, but I think I want to quit. And in the very next tournament, I shot a 31 on 9 holes, which was 5 under par, and it was the lowest 9-hole score that's ever been recorded in the history of the school. And that's how life is. It's like that was not my peak, but that was that one little success amidst all the failures, all the frustrations and the angers and the long drives by yourself, thinking that life couldn't get any worse and this and that, and how, like, why could this have happened to me? What did I do wrong? Blah, 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 blah. But like those moments, the most brutal and hardest periods of your life, there's this phrase, and I think it's a little cliche, but I do like it, and it's pressure creates diamonds. And failure, those moments of failure, that's when it's time to create the diamonds. So we go back to the example with the corn addiction. You fail and you watch it, you give into that urge, you give into that desire. But like that is the opportunity. After that moment, you'll feel disgusting, you'll feel sick, you'll hate yourself, whatever. And then after that moment, you say, you know what? I'm done with this. Like, I'm done now. This is when I'm going to stop. And that's when you can actually turn it around, because you know how bad it feels, and reminding yourself of that feeling and that failure. Obviously, not everything you deal with in life has to be one of the most intense feelings of anger. You could play a sport. You're trying to lose some weight, whatever. It doesn't have to be so intense as that type of addiction. But it's just sort of that thinking and that line of thinking about how failure and the post-failure feeling is one of the worst feelings you can feel. And that's just how life is. You're gonna feel like crap after you do something wrong. That is just the idea. And it's okay, because that's where you can actually create real successes, and where you can actually start to build the building blocks for real growth. And it's hard, like it's very hard. But you remember that girl, Rebecca Black, the Friday girl? She sung that song Friday, and everybody memed on it forever. I mean, that was like the original meme. People like have moved on from that. She's a pretty successful artist. So people like we live in this online world of everybody shows everything all the time, and that's just how we live now. Everybody does. I do it. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I'm better than you, but like we do. We show our failures. And I think that has made people afraid to fail, because it's better to not post than it is to post a failure. But it's not true, because no matter what happens, no matter what thing you mess up on, there's always redemption. And not just because Jesus Christ died on the cross for you, but literally people, I mean, that is the biggest reason, obviously. It's pretty much the only reason. But people will also forgive you, and they will be like, yeah, okay, let me give them a second chance. The people are willing to give second and third and fourth and fifth and 10th chances. You just have to show up. You have to start showing up. And so at the end of the day, like in the midst of the failure, in the middle of it, it's going to feel completely terrible. But understand this is a learning experience. And while it's not a fun learning experience, it's one where you will learn the most, because you don't ever really learn from success. It's hard to learn from success. It's really easy to learn from failure. Whenever I've messed up anything, I go, oh, that's what I messed up. Okay, I'll do better next time. And you can see that in so many things. You can see that in my digital life. If you look at my tech channel, my very first video to now, it was just a constant stream of failures from point A to now. And where am I at now in my video making journey? I don't know, probably 1/10 as good as I think I'll ever be. And I will experience many more failures along the way. And that's okay, because I'm looking forward to them, because those moments, that's when you grow. And the more failures you have, the more successful you will be. Now, chapter 3, become the person you were made to be. I say that sentence a lot. Become the person you were made to be. What does that mean? I have this idea. Made to be, obviously, you were made in the image of God. But it's much more than that. So there's this idea that I have where God creates you, and he has this idea of what you could become, your maximum potential. If you live through his son's perfect example, what you can achieve, how close can you become, how close can you get to the person that you were made to be? I think I heard this from David Goggins, and I think he mentioned it one time in a podcast. One thing that motivates him is that he doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to be waiting at the pearly gates. and they have a sign that says David Goggins. David Goggins would have looked at God. He would have said, "Who's that? That's not me. That's my name, but I'm none of those things. I've never ran a marathon. I never ran 100 miles plus. I never did any of that stuff. I was 350 pounds, and I never really achieved much with my life." And God looks at him and says, "That was the person that you were made to be. You were created to be so much more than you are, and that was the person you were made to be." And that's a thought that drives me quite a bit, is I want to maximize my life. And I know that the number one thing that gets in the way of my success is laziness. That's what gets in the way of my success. I feel like I am a active person. I do a lot of things. I feel like I take good advantage of my time, but I know I could be so much better. And I know that once I start doing one thing better, I let another thing slip. And it's just the constant ebb and flows of life, trying to live into that person that you were made to be. But I just know that I allow laziness to get in my way. For me, laziness is probably my biggest hurdle in my life. It's a sin that I return to the most. And I don't know why. And maybe I'm hard on myself. Maybe one man's laziness is another man's busy. I'm sure that people might look at my life, podcast, 2 kids, 2 YouTube channels, full-time job, works out, all that stuff, and they think, "You're so busy, blah, 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 blah." But I know, I can look at myself in the mirror and I can speak to you through the internet and I can tell you that I can do so much more. I am lazy. I limit myself quite a bit from my own laziness and from my own ego in a way. "Oh, I've already done so much. How much more do I realistically need to do? Blah, 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 blah." And those things, it's like those temptations, they're always there. They never, ever go away. No matter how close to God you get, they will always be there. The devil is constantly tempting you. He's constantly pulling you into sin all the time. And for me, the one that he beats me on is probably laziness, definitely laziness, and then probably it's like sugar and eating not that healthy. I mess that up a lot. I eat sugar all the time. That's through the mouth. That's a way that I definitely am tempted quite a bit, is through the things that I consume. And it's like you have to cut out all that stuff. You have to do your best you can to cut out all that stuff. The thing that's funny is, like, when you break down all of that stuff, when you break down the things and the struggles and the hardships in your life, it's pretty basic, and it's not necessarily easy to do, but it's pretty simple to change your life and pretty dramatic and fix all the hardships and struggles. I've heard people talk about people who've attempted to end their lives by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And the ones who have survived, halfway down, they go, all my problems, like, I probably could fix. They figure out how to fix almost all their problems on the way after they jump to halfway down before they hit the water. And that's a pretty incredible thing, because you realize that the problems in life are pretty minor. Most people's problems aren't that big of a deal. Like, for me, laziness. For other people, it might be they don't have enough money, bad relationship, they're overweight, or they're addicted to drugs. These things might seem like impossible hurdles, but when you break them down, they're kind of simple. I mean, maybe like fixing them and not doing the things and overcoming them is kind of hard, but it's really just kind of simple. Let's say in my case, it's laziness. Just stop being lazy. Don't play on your phone. Don't lay down. Don't go take a nap. Don't do any of those things. Just get up and do something. Like, that's it. That's all I have to do. Go to the gym. Go hang out with your kids. Go work on something. Go build something. Whatever. Just go do something. Just get up. Don't lay down. Don't be lazy. Don't just sit there like a sloth. If you don't have enough money, get another job. Get better with your finances. Learn to budget. Don't buy things and try to impress people and live for the moment. Just grind, just for a little bit, just grind. And then the thing is with money is, once you get good with money, you will always know how to be good with money. And if you get a job and you get some experience and you get a new job, well, that new job, the payment that you get from that new job will be there. Like, you'll constantly be getting paid more money, if so long as it's like a salaried position or an hourly position or whatever. You'll continue to have that. So as long as you just like continue to build, and then if you're in a bad relationship and you're struggling with, like, you love this girl or you love this guy, and you're struggling with it because they act a specific way. It's like, all you have to do is sit down and talk to them about it. And if they're unwilling to change, well, then maybe it might be time to move on. Obviously, if you're married, that's a completely different situation. But if you're dating the person, just send them a text and say it's over. Okay, maybe don't do that, but you could do that if you want. If you're overweight, same thing. Stop eating so much food. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't actually have to go to the gym to lose weight. Going to the gym to lose weight is something that will help a very minor amount. But your body, on the average guy, will burn 2,500 to maybe 3,000 calories just by existing and by living and by moving their arms around when they speak, just sort of by existing. It's called BMR, the base metabolic rate. It's like 2,500 calories. If you just eat 1,500 calories, you'll burn 7,000 extra calories an entire week that you don't consume. That's 2 pounds. 3,500 calories is 2 pounds. If you're overweight, you just got to eat less food. I mean, like, I know it sounds easy because it kind of is. It's simple. It might not be easy, but it's simple. And the same thing, you're addicted to drugs. This is going to sound, I'm not trying to belittle the people who are addicted to drugs. You just have to stop doing the drugs. And I know that sounds, and I'm not trying to belittle that, but it's like, these things are kind of simple in a way. They might be extremely difficult in the pull to do the drugs that you're addicted to, smoking the cigarettes, drinking, those types of things. They might pull you in very easily, but it's very simple what you're trying to do. So you break down all that stuff, and it's just, man, if I could just stop going to the bar, if I could just, instead of going to the bar all the time and drinking my life away, what if instead I read a book, or instead I just went to the gym, or instead I just listened to the Dear Young Man podcast on repeat over and over and over, because Scott just gives the greatest advice that's ever been gifted to man. That's a joke. But it's really, at the end of the day, so many of the things, so many of the hardships, so many of the failures, so many of the things that we deal with, in the moment, they feel like this weight that's overbearing and overwhelming, but it's not. And just know that throughout any hardship and any struggle that you are in, all you have to do is ask for help, and God will be there for you. I've always explained it like a river, and you can make progress swimming against the current and not believing in God and saying, I can do this by myself. I don't need him. I'm better than him, blah, 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 blah. You can make progress. Some people have made a ton of progress because they're just good at swimming. Most people aren't good at swimming. But if you say, okay, God, like, I'll listen. I'll believe, I believe in you, and I'm willing to accept the help, and I need it, and I'll humble myself and admit that I need it. Well, then you'll start to swim with the current, and you'll make a lot more progress. And that's just what I really believe. And so you just have to, at some point, you're just going to have to lock in, and you're just going to have to sit down and say, I'm going to fucking do this, or I'm not. And you're just going to have to lock in at some point. And that's it. That's life. You're just going to have to lock in. And maybe this is the moment of your lock-in. Maybe it's the moment that you look back on and go, maybe that was the moment that pushed me to get to the moment of locking in. At some point, you're just going to have to lock in. Because if not, you'll never become the person. You'll never even sniff the person that you were made to be. You'll be at the pearly gates. And God will look at you and go, you were destined for so much more. This is who I made you to be. And you let all this sin get in your way. You let laziness, you let porn, you let all this stuff get in your way because you just didn't do the things that you were supposed to do, that you were made to do. And now the final chapter, success is built on one failure after another. Obviously, this entire episode is built around the idea of failure and how it's a good thing. And so I just want to wrap it up with a couple things to remember, to just remind you of. There is no success without failure. There's no highs without the lows. Life is unfortunately like a roller coaster. And in a way, it sucks because that means you have to experience those lows, and you're not going to always be experiencing the highs of riding down the hills. Sometimes you're just going to have to be trudging up the hill slowly, bit by bit, every single moment. But really, we should be thankful for that because without those lows, the highs never feel good. Success, if you've never had real success, and I've experienced real success in several facets of my life, it feels better when it takes longer. And I know it sucks because in the moment it's harder. In the moment when you're not successful and you're not succeeding, it's a lot harder. But then when you do succeed, you go, I am so proud of myself because I did it. Through all of that, I overcame and I became a better person because of it. And look how much I've grown. Look at the type of person that I am now compared to the person that I was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Look at me. Look at the person I've become. And as much as we hate those lows, we have to be appreciative of the lows, because it makes the lower the low, the higher the high. And that is the truest statement that's ever been said. For me, the lowest lows for me in golf was just never working harder than anybody on my team and being worse than them. A lot of them were just naturally a little bit more talented than I was. And it's funny, like my successes are from college. Most of them are from college. I did some good things in high school, but most of my the successes that I look back on and go, that was a good thing. I did well there. It happened. Most of them happened in 1 year, my college senior year. That's when I broke like 3 of the 5 records that I ended up holding is senior year of college, 1 year. So I grinded for 12, 13, 14 years, only for 1 year of success. And really it's like 8 to 10 weeks of success. That's like how short the season is. So I had 10 weeks of success. And in those weeks, really, just like 3 of them were really deep successes. And one of them especially was one round of, I shot 65 and broke the school record and the tournament record. And that was 13 years of waiting for that one moment, for that one opportunity that I took advantage of. And like, how many people are willing to sacrifice for 13 years to have one moment of success, to have a little bit of a success 13 years later? Nobody does that. That's why nobody really reaches the peaks that they could reach, because nobody's willing to suffer and to fail and to constantly fail. Basically, nobody's willing to do that. Nobody's willing to just get hit over the head over and over and over and continue to get back up. Most people, when you look at them, they aren't the person that can get beat down over and over and over again and just get back up. And everyone goes, damn, why the hell does that guy keep getting up? How does he keep getting up? It's just, when you're getting punched all the time in a fight, when you're boxing, you're just constantly getting beat up, but you just keep coming back. At some point, the guy that just keeps getting up will probably win the fight, because the other person's going to get tired, going to get exhausted, and he's going to get knocked down, and he's not going to be able to pull himself up like you can. And I want to leave you with a Bible verse, obviously, Philippians 4:13, that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's something to remember that you can do. Again, you can do a lot of this on your own, but having God and Jesus Christ on your side will be the reason you succeed. They will be the reason you look back and go, yeah, without them, I wouldn't be here. And I'm glad I'm here, because I became so much greater than I ever thought I could be. All right, and so let me know how you thought about that, the chapters. I was trying something new, a little bit different, because, I messed up this week, and I'm a little disappointed in myself that I missed this. I'm proud of myself for doing it now, even, better late than never. Something to learn. I got to be a little bit better planning. And so it's just, I don't know, you fail so much in life. I failed so much in my life that I'm kind of used to it in a way that I'm like, okay, and I know what to do here. I know what it's like to fail. Now I need to correct. I know how to fix these types of things, but still it never feels good to fail. And it doesn't feel good waking up and go, oh shit, I messed up. The podcast is supposed to be posting 15 minutes ago. Who cares? I was working really hard. I wasn't just being lazy. I was doing so much work in the basement and everything, because my wife and I we're just thinking about radically changing our lives in a way that we're excited for. And so anyways, we could save that for a later time. So let me know how you thought the chapters and the sort of one big topic broken down into 3 or 4 different ideas about that topic. And let me know how you thought about it. I'd be curious to know, because it leads us to our next section, which is the comment section. And nobody commented, so now I'm just begging for comments. The last podcast did well on YouTube. It had 20 views, which is, I know the numbers are small, but I'm really happy with that. 20 views. People who are listening to that podcast is pretty remarkable. I mean, that was a really good podcast. If you haven't listened, that was my best podcast, episode 18. This title, like Be a Man or Masculinity is a Good Thing. People seem to really like it. And anyway, so this is just a little update section. I just want to update you guys on a few things. I will be filming the next one, I think. This is an audio only one if you're just listening. It's been so much with the basement and everything that I have obviously I missed a podcast. So I'm just doing the best I can trying to get these out, because I don't want to look back and think about, oh, this, I just didn't do it because I couldn't film. And then you don't do it. The way life sort of works is, if you give up once, it's easy to give you up twice, and then it's easy to give up a third time, and then you'll just stop. We all have done something like that, where I'm going to do this thing, and then you start doing that thing, and then you stop doing that thing, and then you stop doing it once, and then it gets easier to do it twice, stopping and then stopping a third time, and then just never going again, like going to the gym, or in this case, filming the podcast. Yeah, so that's pretty much where I stand. I am thinking about a lot of things with my personal life, with the YouTube channels. The Scott Schroeder channel I haven't posted on in almost a month, and the tech channel I'm sort of reviving. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. This is just personal update, so you could skip ahead. I don't know, probably like a couple minutes. So if you're not interested, sorry. But this is my podcast, so I can do whatever I want. I have a personal channel. If you don't know, I have a personal channel called Scott Schroeder. It's my name. It's who I am. And the channel became something that it was never supposed to become. And I've been thinking about this so much. I've had a lot of time to think about everything I've been doing. I was working in my basement a lot, so you get 5-6 hour stretches of just you and maybe some music, or you and just silence in a lot of cases, which is what I would like to do. And so I was thinking about it. And the Scott Schroeder channel was always meant to be this cool thing where every once in a while I post a video that I'm proud of and that I would show my kids when I got older. And it became a YouTube channel. I got to post consistently. I got to post within this niche. I got to post the same types of content, because if I want people to watch the videos, everything needs to be niched down, and I need to really dial in X, Y, and Z. And that's not what that channel was for. So I'm changing what I'm doing on that channel. And my idea is to post basically one video every 2 months, probably. That's just a big video that I would be really proud of my kids. I want my kids to watch. And you think about it, and let's say I post on that channel for 5 years or 10 years even. And if I post a video every week for 10 years, that's 500 videos. They will never watch all those. But if I post 5 videos a year for 10 years, 50 videos, that's a manageable amount of videos to actually consume. I mean, that each one, that's like 4 seasons of a TV show, basically, that you could watch in a couple weeks. But 500 episodes is just overwhelming. And so I want my kids to I want each one to be much better than they were. I want the thoughts to be deeper, the ideas to be more stretched out and everything. So I want to bring that channel back to sort of its roots. And which leads me to the tech channel. And I know I've been back and forth, and I said I was done with it, and I wanted to focus on this, and I want to focus on Scott Schroeder, blah, 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 blah. The tech channel, I'm really excited about. I have never treated YouTube like a business because I like making the videos so much. But at some point, I owe my kids, I talked about this in the last episode, but I owe my kids, if I'm going to be doing this YouTube stuff, if I'm going to make a video, I've been doing this for so long, 7 years, almost 8 years in just a few months, or almost 7 years in just a few months. And I owe my kids time, right? And if I'm going to spend time on YouTube, I need to be having it better their lives, because I could spend time on YouTube on Scott Schroeder and not post as much and do that kind of stuff and still spend more time with them. But if I want to make these videos and do this kind of stuff, then I feel an obligation to make it money and treat it more like a business. So I'm doing that, and I'm excited about it. I actually took a sponsorship for the first time, and I think I might take another one. And it's exciting. It's an exciting thing for me because I've never actually, I was always against sponsors, and then I got a sponsor and I go, oh, I understand why people do it, because now I can make videos that I wasn't able to make. If you pay me a couple $100 for a sponsorship on a video and I could use that money to buy another product, well, then people will get a video that they wouldn't have gotten without me having bought that product and taking that sponsorship, because I don't have unlimited money, and I can't just buy whatever the heck I want. And I think it's awesome, and I'm actually really excited about it in the future of it, because I'm not limited anymore financially as much, because I can sort of stretch my wings, and I'm really excited about it. And so, yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with that. And the podcast is going to continue going because I love doing this, and I feel like I'm really proud of this. And it's awesome. I love this podcast. It brings me closer to God, which is why I do it selfishly. And this is just one of those things that I know that my temptations to not post, because there have been a lot of times I'm tempted not to post. I mean, I posted 20 episodes almost, and I have a combined amount of listens of maybe less than 10 per episode. And it's really tempting to just give up and do the things that, okay, well, Scott Schroeder channel, I could at least get 1,000 views a video. On Techno Eclipse, my tech channel, I could get 20, 30,000 views a video. Why don't I just do that instead? But I know that this is worth it, because I know that at some point this channel will become so much greater than what it is. and just the words that I'm saying, and I hope it brings people closer to God. That's my whole point with this. I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic, but I believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's how I identify myself, as I'm a Christian, and I believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. I mean, I am a Catholic fundamentally, and I go to Mass, and I do believe in all the Catholicism, but I am a hardcore Christian, and I really believe that, and I hope that I can bring people closer to Jesus, and I think that I hope I have, and I hope I will continue to do that. So anyways, those are just a few little updates about me and my life, because we don't get a comment section. But the next section is the quote of the day, and the quote of the day it's one of those things that I had a million quotes, and now as I make these podcasts, I go, man, I'm kind of running out. So today's quote is actually a verse from the Bible, and it's Mark 8:36. This is from Jesus. He says, "For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul?" And I think that as you grow in life and as things start to succeed, and this ties back to Technoclips, which is why I wanted to go over those things. You have to remain moral in anything you do. I worry that I fall into a niche of people who, like, the self-development niche is littered with trash. And the people who engage in this might have misconceptions about the way life works and the way life should work. And I want to remind them that you can gain the whole world, but at the cost of your soul, it's not worth it. Just continue to remain moral. So what good does it do for you to gain wealth and material goods if the true cost is not money, it's your soul? Who cares if your home is bigger than mine or if your car's faster than mine, if you lose your soul in the process? And we see that. I think we see that now in America. We see with the politics, the two people running for president, they're not the most moral people. And it's like, at what cost? At what cost do you do these things and to become the people that you are? Understanding that remaining moral will cost you financially. It's not against the Christian religion to have money, but I think that you can never become the amount of money that you can have will always be limited somewhat, because in order to create so much wealth, you're going to have to cross a moral gray area sometimes. And again, we bring it back to the verse / quote of the day is, what does it profit you to gain the whole world but forfeit your soul over that? Remember to never profit at the expense of somebody else. People are people, all made in God's image. They all have value, obviously. No matter how young you are, how old you are, human life is valuable. And I know that we don't believe that now, and it's unfortunate, but it is true, actually. No matter how much you don't like the person or whatever your preconceived notions of them might be, they were made in the image of God. So you never profit at their expense. And finally, worldly possessions are fleeting. A nicer car here, a bigger house there. The funny thing is, like, a really nice house 20 years ago is not a really nice house anymore. The fixtures are old. The design is old. Everything's out of date. That stuff is fleeting. Your nicer house, your faster car, well, you know what? Your faster car today will be eclipsed by a faster car tomorrow. That's just how it works. And all of these amazing things that you might own and that you sacrifice your future for, like, at some point that stuff won't be like, it just won't be, it won't give you the feeling that you thought it would give you forever. It won't validate you, because somebody will always have a bigger house and a better house and a nicer car and a faster car and a better everything than you. That's how life is. And so once you understand that, you can actually start to live outside of the materialist world and into a world that's much greater than stuff and things. And so that's my verse of the day, quote of the day. And finally, the final section of the podcast is the unsolicited advice section. I always laugh about this section. See, can't you hear me? I'm busted. I'm doubled over in pain because I'm laughing so hard. This section is always interesting to me because the entire podcast is basically unsolicited advice. But this is just like even more unsolicited advice, where I feel like I can talk a little bit more direct. Not that I can't talk direct, but this really is the same thing, but I just give it a cool title and a cool little stinger. So my unsolicited advice today ties into the quote of the day. And it's when you are on your deathbed, you won't care how fast your car goes or how big your house was. You will just care to be around the people that love you. You hear stories. I was listening to something today about this older gentleman who was talking about like the things in his life and all the stories he has, and he's been in the room when a lot of people have passed away, and every single one of them, they never talked about, oh, gee, I really wish I would have had a few more medals. I really wish I would have had a few more, a nicer car. I mean, yeah, the Ford I had was cool, but it would have been cooler to have you had an F-150, would have been cool to have an F-250, whatever. I mean, it's all this just things. Nobody ever thinks about that. They just want to be surrounded by the people that they love. And it's a constant reminder that we live in a materialist world, and a materialist world will leave you empty, and it will chew you up and spit you out because you can never have enough in a materialist world. Obviously, Jesus gives you enough through him and through his death and his resurrection and through the belief in him that you can have a much greater life and a more eternal life, and a life that, while maybe on the physical world, compared to some other people who don't believe in him, isn't as good, and who don't live through his ideas and through his ideals, you could look at it and go, well, he's got a yacht. I don't have a yacht. He's got a bigger house than me. I don't have a bigger house. He sleeps with 50 women, and the culture really values that. Personally, I think that just seems like a pain in the ass. Like, I don't want to, like, I already got one to deal with. Do you think I want 49 others? My wife listens to these, so I'm going to get a message about that. All right, at the end of your podcast. But anyway, so they might live a life where you go, man, that's a better life than what I live. But again, what good is it if it sacrifices your soul for it? You, on your deathbed, the only thing that will matter is your legacy, basically. And the legacy is the people you leave behind. Not the things you leave behind or the money you leave behind or whatever. Like, yeah, that stuff is cool. Like, I really hope I can donate a ton of money. I plan on donating a ton of money one day. I plan on giving my kids, hopefully they can have some type of generational wealth from me. But I plan on my kids being there at my deathbed. And I will, if that means that they don't get any money from me, but they get to be near me because they loved me, because I loved them, and we had a home of love, then I'm okay with that. I think that I would rather trade in all the money I have and all the stuff I have for just some more love, because I love it. I love my kids. I love hugging them. I love being hugged by them. I love my wife. Those things, life is love. And when you realize that, you realize that you can't get love from a thing, from a 4K camera, from an 8K camera, from a 16K camera, from an 8K TV, whatever, all that stuff. That will never give you love. That will never hug you back. That will never hurt you the way that a child can, and that'll never hurt you the way that your spouse can. But it'll also never make you feel as loved as the people in your life. And so just as a constant reminder, I'm just reminding myself, and I'm reminding you, that we live in a materialist world, and it's really easy to get sucked into that. It's very easy. The entire culture is built on overconsumption, consumerism, capitalism, these ideas of stuff over people. Capitalism's a great system, but it puts things over people. And it's the best system we have, realistically, but it also puts things over people. Ayn Rand was very things over people based. She was not a Christian. She was a deep atheist. And so you can see that it's an inherently flawed idea, but it's a solid one that does work quite well. So just remember that at the end of the day, nothing in this world can replace the love of your kids and your wife and your family. And just remember that if you plan on never having kids and you're choosing not to have kids, you might regret that one day, and I don't want you to have that regret. I understand a lot of people say, well, I just don't want to have kids, and I don't think I should have kids because I'm not going to be a good parent. And you know what? Like, that's not up to me. I just don't want you to be on your deathbed and think, damn, I wish I had kids here because I'm all by myself and nobody is here to love me. And that's a fear that I know a lot of people don't have right now. And it's because we feel invincible, we feel young, and there'll be a point though when you don't feel like that so much anymore. And to those people, I would say, don't value things over love and over humans, because humans are inherently more valuable. Thank you for listening to the 19th episode of the Dear Young Men podcast. This has been Scott. If you enjoyed it, check out the other ones. Give it a 5-star rating. Share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it. Although be careful, because if you sort of call them out saying, hey, you fail a lot, like, you know, just be tender with it the way you word. It's like, oh, he's just sort of aggressive in his titles. I think you're a great guy. Anyways, I appreciate you sticking through to the end here. And I hope you have a great day. And I will talk to you next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.